My name is Jay Smith, and I am a former heroin, crystal meth, hardcore Xanax abuser, and junkie that used to run the streets for 15 years plus. Started out, I was raised in a good family. Parents divorced at 2 years old. My dad took off to Las Vegas. I was very defiant. You couldn't tell me anything. At that time, oppositional defiant disorder was not a thing, so they diagnosed me as bipolar. My mom had to call the police on me regularly. I was in and out of Gardner Beth, which is juvenile detention here in Austin, Texas. Fast forward to, I got into hanging out with the dropouts and the older kids. I wouldn't have passed high school if it wasn't for me going to my first treatment center at 17, and they pretty much just pushed me through to graduate. At 17, I moved to Las Vegas with my dad, and started working out, and I developed something I loved to do, which was bodybuilding and lifting weights, because there was so much violence there. I thought that lifting weights was gonna make me more devastating in a fight, so I got into that, hanging out with a lot of the wrong kids. At the age of 19, I got addicted to Oxycontin. I was, back then, that was in about 2004. There were, I think for an 80 they were about 50 cents a milligram back then. It was 80 milligrams for $40. And my conscience told me every time, for about 2.5 to 3 years, this is going to be the last pill that you buy. I would buy one at a time. Of course, I'd buy 2, 3, 4 a day, because it was always my last one. I find that funny, how I believed that was really my last one. And they were so damn expensive. If we didn't have the money for Oxycontin, because we would also smoke those oxys off foil. We would snort them, smoke them at that age. And we would also, you smoke black tar, you smoke heroin off foil too. So if I didn't have money for Oxycontin, I would just get a 20 of black tar heroin and smoke it off foil in a straw. And I dabbled in crystal meth, cocaine, loved ecstasy. But about 19 years old was really when I really got stuck with a real drug habit, and that was Oxycontin. It had me with the balls. About 22 years old, my dad said he just couldn't handle it anymore, so he said, hey, you gotta leave. You gotta move town, because at that time I really wasn't paying my own bills, so I had moved to Arizona, where he had a real estate project going on, and of course, same thing. I went and seeked my drugs. I found them. It was hard though. I was driving back to Vegas every weekend to get my steady plug. 5.5 hour drive from Phoenix, Arizona to Vegas to get my steady hook on H or Oxycontin. All I had was a neighbor that sold cocaine in Scottsdale, Arizona, and I hated cocaine. But damn, I'd snort a fucking gram and a half a night, fucking hating it. I'd snort them by the 20s too. I'd just keep going back to my neighbor's house, and say I had to be at work at 10 o'clock in the morning. I'd be snorting cocaine till 6:45, 7 a.m. Then start pounding Jack Daniels and taking Tylenol PM so I could catch a couple hours of sleep before I went to work, man, and I was a bellman and a valet driver, so I'd be pushing that damn cart, just dripping in sweat. Well, wound up getting a DUI in Scottsdale, Arizona at 22. Moved back to Austin, Texas. Was able to get back into my hobby, bodybuilding and lifting weights and fitness. And I was eating off dope. Took narcos here and there. I went out on the famous 6th Street, 4 or 5 nights a week and got plastered. But I did start taking narcos. I got connected with somebody that had a business, a hustle, the white van scam. I thought it sounded ridiculous because I had already known who they were. I thought it sounded so stupid, but I had gotten in a fight with my mother, and then, I was 22. I was living in my mom's house. I'm like, I talked to my homeboy. He said he had an office in Seattle. I was like, look, I'm ready to come work for you, dude. So I moved out to Seattle. Not addicted to anything at the time. I was hustling, right money. 1,500 to 2,000 a week on an average base, and I saw that the kids that I was working with this were also doing oxy, and they were freebasing them off foil, which blew my mind. I didn't know that was like a thing. I guess I was so naive. I thought only the people in Vegas did that, but evidently they did it in Vegas too. And I stayed away from it for a month or so, and I would look at them, take their hits and open, puke, and like, wow. I'm so glad that I don't do that anymore. But I knew I was in trouble. Because they were doing my drug of choice, and so I got steady started doing them. And out in Seattle, they were $1 a pill, so it was 80 milligrams for an 80 milligram pill of Oxycontin. Twice as expensive. Winded up moving out, getting my own apartment. I was doing 6 to 10 pills a day. I don't know how I came up with all that money. I do know that I did wind up getting evicted for not paying my rent. And I did exercise my squatter's rights. So I was in that apartment for like 3 months before the sheriff came and told me to leave. So that didn't end well. I winded up coming back to Austin. I was actually doing heroin. I started doing heroin. I was in and out of jail in Washington and Seattle, and I was in jail for like 4 days one time, and I was kicking hard. And when I got out, I was kicking hard, but I sure didn't have $80 for an Oxycontin. And I planned on robbing this dude. I planned on robbing this dealer. Me and another guy were waiting for him to show up, and we were just gonna beat the shit out of him and take his pills, his oxys. And while we were waiting for him, he was like, "Hey, heroin's way cheaper," and he's like, "You just need $20." So the dude never showed, and we were sitting there, and I'm like, "Fuck it, let's get some heroin." So we got some. I got my girl at the time. We used to be together, and went and scored the dope, and I was gonna smoke mine. Actually, I was gonna shoot it, and I decided I was gonna smoke it. And he was cooking everybody's shots up because we were all rookies. We didn't know how to shoot up, and so he was shooting us all up. And the dude, it was my turn, right? And so he's got the spoon in the water, ready to go. He's got my piece of dope, my little 20. And I'm like, "Hey, I'm just gonna smoke mine." And he heard it, looked me in the eyes, and looked me straight in the eyes. I said, he goes, too late, and dropped it in the water. And cooked it up, shot it. He shot it up for me. It was cool. You know, the heroin out there was terrible. It wasn't even. I mean, it was the worst of the worst. But you know, of course, it was stronger than an oxycontin, and I thought it felt good. And the first thing that went through my mind was, this is all the hype about people shooting up. I was like, this is a cool feeling. It's not that big a deal. I mean, this is all the people are hating on this and talking so much shit about. This is really nothing. I think it's great. So I started shooting up. As a rookie, I used to pay my dealer like $5 extra to shoot me up. It took me a couple months to learn how to shoot up. Anyways, fast forward, that hustle in Seattle ended, so I brought it to Austin and met up with some people on the east side. And I was with my girl. I brought her from Seattle to Austin, and we were bragging about how we take gram shots, because out in Seattle, a gram was like $30, and at the time in Austin, a gram was $100. It was $10 a point. So we didn't know the difference, and we thought it was just the same shit we were doing. Anyways, long story, we're talking about taking gram shots, and this little 20, like, this ain't shit. Anyways, my homeboy hit me. My girl said that my eyes went cross-eyed, and I remember the feeling was, I think something bad's about to happen. And then all of a sudden, it just went into euphoria, and it was wonderful. And then my homeboy shot my girl up. Well, bam, she went straight out, turned purple. We had to take her to the ER. I was able to get her going. We pulled up to the ER. My homeboys ditched, took off, left us, and I was able to get her going in the parking lot of the ER, luckily. And we started doing that dope here in Austin, which was at the time was some good ass dope. It was some real brown, not that bullshit up in Seattle. It was good.
Would you say that you were a heroin addict, only an addiction here?
So basically, the question is, how long was I an IV addict, an IV heroin addict?
Yeah.
About 12 years. Maybe 13, but 12 with a couple stops or I would say maybe about 8 into treatment centers and jail and all that stuff. But
how many total treatment centers did you go
to? Probably 9 or 10, but I successfully completed 5. So we're doing all kinds of dope here in Austin. We were off to the races. We were doing like 2 to 3 grams a day, and robbing, doing all that, armed robberies, all that craziness. And
at this point, you've switched girls, right?
No.
Oh, yeah.
No. Anyways, but I was, staying in hotels, switching off from staying at my mom's to hotels. Fast forward to the new girl. I was making my money again, hustling, and she was a dealer. She was a heroin dealer, and she was selling for a gang here in Texas. And she was staying with a dude that it was connected with him, and he wound up catching a little case and having to go to state jail for 4 months. And while he was in state jail, we, hooked up and took over the business supposedly. I mean, but that whole ring went down, so she had to get another connected, and it went down quick. She wound up getting raided. I wound up spending like 8 grand to keep her out of prison. So she was actually 18 years my senior, and I primarily,
How old were you?
at the time, 27, and I primarily was, I was in a Hispanic neighborhood, east side of Austin, 78702. And at that time, it was all drug dealers, all Hispanics. Of course, my nickname was Weddle, which means light complexion. Alright. So, yeah, that went down with a quickness. And she saw my hustle. I was making a lot of money. I took her out with me for like an hour and a half. She saw I made $600 profit in an hour and a half to 2 hours, and she saw that money. We wound up getting an apartment together. Our drug use got out of control. I was shooting speedballs, cocaine and heroin mixed together, which in the hood you can't. Powder is not as prevalent as rock. So a lot of times I would, keep a pack of Kool-Aid in my back pocket to, I'd drop that crack rock in the water and put the Kool-Aid in there, and it would break that crack down quick. And I'd mix that up, draw it up. Then I would usually drop a 20 in there of brown, cook that up, draw it up. And at the time I had no other veins except for my jugular. So, pow, I'd shoot that. And I got to taste the Kool-Aid. So, it was a win-win.
How long were you all together?
I think 8 years. The first 2 years, we were boyfriend, girlfriend, engaged. Then we got married, and it was just a super toxic relationship. As soon as we got married, it just turned straight down. So, I started, we lived out of hotels. I did my hustle. I was able to, take care of both of our drug habits and pay for the hotel and the rental car, or some, we had our own vehicles at times. I was able to buy vehicles. But, that only lasted for so long. And, I was also on methadone. I was on methadone for 8 years.
When did you know it was over?
When did I know what was over?
The lifestyle.
Oh, well, I'll get to that. Anyways, so I was on the methadone for 8 years. I had blown out all my veins. I had overdosed many times. 5 to 6 of them I wound up in the hospital where an ambulance had to take me. One time I lost my hearing for like 36 hours, and that was the scariest shit ever. I didn't know if I'd ever get my hearing back. I was primarily in a just all around Hispanics. My wife was a Hispanic, so that's how I got connected with all the gang members in town. So my friends were they gang members in Austin, Texas. So I was running with a pretty rough crowd. I would hang out on the streets during the day, doing my thing. Usually was able to go back to a hotel at nighttime. Of course, I had to go to that methadone clinic every morning. And the worst point of my addiction, my heroin addiction at one point was $300 to $400 a day. But at the worst point of my addiction, you know, I was doing a gram of heroin a day, 70 milligrams of methadone, 6 to 10 Xanax bars a day, and like 4 beers a day. Plus, you know, I'd be smoking on my bolo here and there throughout the day, which means smoking crystal meth. I was no longer able to shoot crystal meth because my veins were just shot out. When I decided to surrender, let me rewind real quick. There was one other time when I just couldn't take it anymore. I was done. I hated the lifestyle. I couldn't hustle anymore. I hated everything about myself. My conscience was just eating me up about scamming people, ripping people off. My drug addiction was kicking my ass. My toxic relationship was eating me, just tearing my heart up. And I went on I smoked a lot of, we did a lot of crystal meth. And I woke up and I fell asleep for an hour or two and woke up. And it was like I heard a guitar string, like how you pull it back real quick and it goes ding. So as soon as I woke up, ding, I heard that noise. And I was like, yep, I gotta do it. I gotta get a gun. I gotta get a gun, and I gotta take homeboy out who stole my wallet, and then I gotta take myself out. So I tried to do that, but you know, I was a basket case, up for days, and sick off heroin, up for days on meth. Was not able to get the gun, moving way too fast, and decided to try suicide by cop. So I called the police. I pulled up on a police officer. I had a bundle of sticks stuck in my pants to look like a gun, and I walked up to him and I pulled them on him, hoping he was going to put one in my head just to end all this misery. He pulled out his gun. I remember looking down the barrel, and my mother was behind me, and she was screaming, "He doesn't have a gun." I don't know if that's what saved me, or if he just got, saw that it wasn't a gun. He goes, the officer said, "Are you going to hit me with those sticks?" At that time, I knew I wasn't going. I knew that my plan wasn't going to go through, so I dropped the sticks. I laughed at him, and I walked out into traffic on Mopac Loop 1, and all the cars just stopped. And then, I turned around to the police officer, and he had his taser out, walking towards me, and at that time, I just stuck my hands behind my back. He put me in the police car. I figured I was going down for assault on a police officer, but they just took me to a psych hospital for a 48-hour hold. I was out in 48 hours. Of course, kept doing the same shit. Hated my life. Hated everything about it. I was in a hotel room trying to hustle with my wife at the time. Everything sucked. Relationship, life just sucked. And I remember, just being treated like shit and having to barely pay the fucking weekly hotel. And one night I just said, "Hey, I actually went and got some dope." And she, even though she was tripping on me for some made-up reason, and I came home with some dope. I think it was a 40. I was like, "Hey," or however much it was. I'm like, "You want some of this?" She gave me the silent treatment, so I'm like, "Cool." fix my shot. When I was fixing it, I'm like, hey, just so you know, I'm not paying for this hotel anymore, and tomorrow I'm going to long-term treatment. Because at that time, I was not suicidal, but I knew that I would not live another day like this, and I'd rather be dead than live another day in that misery as a junkie, living that life, hating myself. So I wound up going to treatment for the last time, and I did not do a little 30-day like I had did previously. I was able to stay for 3.5 months, and went ahead and got the sponsor, which I always thought was so dumb. I had to call it another grown man because I thought I was big shot. I knew everything. And I actually went to sober living, which I had always thought was so stupid. So I did all those things, and I did do AA. I did all that for 11 months, and got back into training, into working out, and actually became a recovery support peer specialist, substance abuse peer specialist, and I still hold that title. And I met my wife that I'm with today, and that's a beautiful story. A beautiful story. I have a family. I got 2 beautiful boys. I just bought a beautiful 4-bedroom home, 2,000 square feet. I have a great job. I've been doing outreach now for almost 5 years. And life is beautiful. I have an amazing job. I make great money. My wife is amazing. My kids are great. At one point I did have a relapse during outreach, because that is a very dangerous environment for addicts to go into. But I did get on medicated assisted treatment, and it worked well. Not methadone, but I decided Suboxone, which buprenorphine, and it worked great. And anybody out there who is struggling, especially in the Austin, Texas area, we can connect you with all those resources. They'll get you on it. If you decide that you don't want to do dope anymore, opiates, we can connect you with medicated assisted treatment almost instantly. And as far as other substances, there are so many other resources that we have for you. If you want to reach out, that's what we do for a living. Man, and if you're ever feeling like you have no hope, which is the worst feeling that anyone could ever have, is having no hope, let me tell you, there is hope, and it will get better. I feel like a king. I live like a king now. It was the hardest thing I ever did, was to surrender and get sober and go through those steps. I remember riding the city bus with nothing, but I was clean, and seeing the other addicts on the bus nodding out, and me just happy that I didn't have to do that, and that wasn't me, and I didn't have those chains around me anymore. And I dedicated, a support system. My mother was a great support, is my support system, and my family. And I just want to let you guys know to reach out to Above and Below, and we can get you connected to some help. Dedicate this to Robert Razor Lujan and the family. I love you guys. Stay hard, keep pumping, and we'll see you real soon.